We're going to create some sample puzzle cubes, and in this video we're going to cover a couple of different ways that you can create. Now I've already created a standard IPT, so go ahead and hit new standard IPT. But I've already created one here. But before we begin, I want you to make sure that under Tools and Application Options, when you go to Sketch, that you have Auto Project Edges for sketch creation and edit. You want to make sure that auto projecting of edges is there, because then you are going to, well, it's basically going to create an outline whenever you create a new sketch, an outline of whatever used to be there so that you can snap onto it. And I'll explain that once we get into this. So I'm going to hit close. Now the first piece we're going to make is going to be a cross or a T shape with a little piece coming off of it, and you may have a piece like this, you may not, we'll see. And you can use this from any origin, but I'm just going to show you it from one. So I'm going to go to isometric view, and I'm actually going to start with the YZ plane, and I'm going to make a new sketch, and the right is turned sideways, so I'm just going to make sure that it's right side up. I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle, but I want to make this 0.75 by 0.75 because that's the size of our rectangle or our cubes. So I'll put 0.75 tab 0.75. So there's my 0.75 by 0.75 cube. You can also draw a rectangle by clicking and then clicking again in the corner and then dimensioning each wall to 0.75 as well. So I could click here and put 0.75 and click here and put 0.75 as well. If you're not in the dimension tool, so if I want to get out of my dimension tool by hitting escape, I'd have to double click these numbers in order to change their values. Okay, but we're not going to worry about this one. I'm just going to use this one. I just wanted to go over how to do that in both ways. So I'll go to finish sketch and go to isometric view. And I'm going to go to extrude, and I want to extrude this original square that I made over here. Just click down on the wheel of my mouse to move this. And it's going 1 inch, but I want it to go 0.75, because that's how big 1 unit is. So this concept I'm going to extrude several times just to show you how you can lock different pieces onto one another. And so if I want to continue this another 0.75, I can just click on this face right here, make a new sketch. This is the third button over. It says create sketch, and now I've got my block. Now the reason that I went to tools application options and made sure that it auto projected the sketch, because now I've got this yellow box around my piece. It auto projected the borders of my object on here. So I've already got a square drawn onto my object. I don't even have to draw another one because it's already here. And another way we can do this, if I go to project geometry and click the square, it'll automatically make that border for me if it wasn't already there. But I like to have it auto project most of the time to make sure that I got that border yellow line. So whenever you make a new sketch on an object, it'll automatically put this loop around there, or draw the borders of it basically. So I'm going to go to finish sketch, and I'm going to go to extrude, and I'm going to extrude this out another 0.75. Okay, so I'm adding another block to this. Click OK. Now I'm going to click this face again and make a new sketch. And I've already got it auto projected, so I'll go to finish sketch. And I'm going to go to extrude again, and I'm going to extrude it another 0.75. Okay, so I've gone as far as I want in this direction. Now I'm going to start going down. So I want to make blocks below this. So if I grab my cube here, I basically want blocks to come out of the bottom. See how my mouse is pointing to the bottom? This face right here. So I'm going to make a sketch on this face. And here is my auto-projected border, and I want it to be right in the middle because we're going to make a T shape. So I'm going to go to my rectangle tool. I'm going to lock onto the line here. Make sure that you're locked on. Okay, that'll snap onto the line. But don't snap onto the middle. See how my mouse turned green? If you lock onto the middle of the line and I draw, I can no longer, I'm going to hit escape, I can no longer move this line. It's stuck in one place. I could move this line and make it different dimensions, but this one, since I snapped it onto the middle, is not going to move. So you don't want to snap it on the middle unless you really mean to have it stay on the middle. So I'm going to go back in time one, actually multiple times until my rectangle goes away. Go back to my rectangle again and ensure that it's not green because I don't want to lock onto the middle of my line. I want it to be off of it a little bit. So I'm just going to make sure it's snapped onto the line, but it's still a yellow dot. And I'm going to make my rectangle here. And my bottom number, it says 0.497. I'm just going to leave it at that. And I'm going to go to dimension. So I'm going to dimension from this line over to this line. So I'm dimensioning between these two lines here. And I want to make this number 0.75 also. Now I've got my 0.75 square, but it's not centered. I want it to be right down the middle. I want it to be equal distance on this side and this side. Right now it's not. It's leaning more towards the right than it is the left. So I'm going to dimension from this line to this line. And this should also be 0.75. Okay? Now, I don't even have to dimension from here to here. In fact, if I dimension from here to here, it's going to tell me it's 0.75. It has to be, because this is 0.75 3 times, this whole length here. And I've already said that I want this to be 0.75 and I want this to be 0.75, so this has to be. And as soon as I click this dimension in place, look at what happens. A window will pop up that said, adding this dimension will over-constrain the sketch. So you don't want to over-constrain the sketch. It's saying it can't add this dimension. You can't edit it because we've already established these two rules. The computer has to abide by these two rules. Therefore, this has to be 0.75. So I'm just going to cancel that. Finish sketch. And from the bottom, I'm going to extrude this square right here, 0.75 as well. Click OK. And I'm going to click on this bottom face again. And I'm basically making it so that you can envision that blocks are being snapped onto each other one by one. So I made a new sketch on here. I've got my auto projected loop. Finish sketch. Go to extrude. It's extruding this automatically, 0.75. Click OK. OK. Now we're going to do one more extrude and we're going to bring it outward. So I want to go out from this face right here. So I'm going to click this face, make a new sketch, grab my rectangle tool, lock onto the bottom corner of the T so it's green. So I want to lock onto that corner, make my rectangle, snap on right there. I'm going to dimension from this line to this line, this distance right here. And I'm going to make this 0.75. Finish sketch. Extrude this square right here, 0.75 as well. Click OK. And now I've created a potential puzzle piece. And maybe you have a puzzle piece that actually looks like this piece. Who knows? But that is one method of doing this. It took 6 extrusions, but we basically pieced together all these squares. So look, extrusion 1 was this block, and then extrusion 2 is this block, and then 3, and then 4 is this middle block, 5 is the bottom block, and then 6 was the last block down here. And so you basically have blocked all these blocks together to create your piece. This is a way you can do it, and it's fine if you do it this way. There are easier ways, and I'll show you one right now. But first I want to say, if I come up here to as material, then we can change this to a different color. So let's say this one was blue. And now we can change it to blue. Okay? Alright, this is the other method to do it. I'm going to go and create a new IPT. And I'm going to go to my origin. And I'm going to make this on the XY plane. That is the front face. So I'm going to make a new sketch, and I'm going to create this in two sketches. So I'm going to go up to my line tool, and I'm first just going to make that top line of the T. And the top line is 3.75s. So I can either figure out what that is, and it's 2.25. Okay, when you add 0.75 plus 0.75 plus 0.75, it's 2.25. But I can also, while I'm making this line, so I'm in the middle of making this line, you want to make sure that it's going 180 degrees, or 0 degrees. I'm going to put 0.75 times 3. And look at that, made 2.25. Okay, I'm still in the middle of making a line, it just made this first part 2.25. Now I'm going to go straight down 90 degrees. And while I'm in the middle of drawing this, I'm going to make it 0.75. Okay, now I'm going to come over to the left, make sure that I'm at 0 degrees, or 90 degrees from here. And I'm going to make this 0.75 as well. Now I'm going to go down, and I want to go down not 0.75, but 0.75 times 2, which is 1.5. So I can either put 1.5, or I could put 0.75 times 2. Either way. Okay, I'm going to hit my front view really quick while I'm in the middle of drawing this so I can see the whole thing. Now I'm going to bring this across at 90 degrees, or 0 degrees, horizontal basically. Make this 0.75. And then I'm going to come up, straight vertical line, and I can type in the number, or you can actually see, if I zoom in here, see this dotted line that shows up that locks on to the corner? If you get one of those, then you're in good shape. Plus, it tells me the blue dimension down there that it's 1.5, but you can type it in if you'd like. 1.5. Click. Now I'm going to come out, same dotted line, locking on, but if you want to be safe, you can just put it out horizontally and type 0.75. And then I will come up and lock onto the corner. Okay, finish sketch. I'm going to go to isometric view, and then I'm going to extrude this. Right now it's going out 1 inch, but I want it to be 0.75. So I've created my T, I just need to make one more sketch and extrude this piece down here. So I'm going to click on this face, make a new sketch, grab my rectangle tool, lock onto the corner, and lock and snap onto this line. And I can make this however big I want as long as I have snapped onto the two lines over here, because I'm just going to dimension this line right here. Okay. If your dimension doesn't work, and I'm going to escape out of this for a moment, say you're picking up this whole line instead of just this line, that's okay. You can just click the top line and the bottom line, and it will dimension in between those. So for this number, we want 0.75, and then I'm going to go to Finish Sketch, and I'm going to go to Extrude, and I want to extrude this little block down here, 0.75. And we've created the same thing, but we've only used 2 extrusions. In the last one we used 6 extrusions because we went block by block by block to create it. But in this part, we created one big section with a sketch, and then we brought this part out separately. So 2 ways to create one puzzle piece. And again, if you want to change the material to whatever color it is, let's say this one's brown. Okay, you can change your color right up here. Now that we've created this sample, let's go ahead and create the sample that we created in class. I'm going to create one more IPT. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. I'm going to go to my origin, and I'm going to use the XZ plane this time. and it's flipped myself upside down, so I'm just going to rotate this until it's right side up. And I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. My rectangle is going to be 0.75 for the bottom, then I'm going to hit tab, and I'm going to put 1.5 for the length, because that's what it is. Finish sketch, go to isometric view, I'm going to extrude this, and I'm going to extrude it 0.75. Okay, now I'm going to go to the same exact plane I just went to, the XZ plane, and I'm going to make another sketch, and I'm going to rotate this around. Okay, right now I do not have the borders of this drawn onto my sketch, this piece right here, because I didn't draw directly on the face. So if you're going to draw on the origin plane again, what you have to do is go to Project Geometry. When I click Project Geometry and select this rectangle, when I go back to my sketch, notice that there is now a yellow border. So I now have a yellow border around my piece. That's going to be really handy because now I can lock onto this line. So I'm going to go to my rectangle, and in the top right corner, I'm going to lock onto this corner, and I'm going to make a square out to the side here. The square is going to be 0.75, tab 0.75, because it's a square. And in the bottom left corner, lock on green, I'm going to make this one 0.75, tab 0.75 as well, because there are two on each side. Go ahead and hit Finish Sketch. And I'm going to go ahead and create my object now. Go to Extrude, and I'm going to extrude this square and this square, but I don't want to go 0.75, I want to go double 0.75. So I can either put 1.5 or I can just multiply this by 2. Multiply by 2. So now we've created our sample piece. Click OK. And as material, scroll down to the R's. Oop, went a little too far. Red, and our piece is complete. 2 extrusions, 1 sketch here, and 1 sketch with these 2 squares. And you learned Project Geometry, where it would be useful. Because Project Geometry is automatically going to be used if you click on a face and make a sketch on it. But if I just make a brand new sketch on one of these planes, it's not going to project the geometry of the old pieces, because you're making something brand new, not based on anything else. So this would be an example of how you could create the sample piece.